All right, I think everybody is joining. Hello, you guys. All right, great to see everybody. Welcome. And I think I've got a few more people here. Let's get everyone in. Okay, you guys, so I am clearly not in my office. I'm in my car, which is like an office. But I was on the way to the airport and the traffic was so bad that it took me it's like it's been 2 hours so far and I have another hour to go if you can believe it. But I wouldn't want to miss Wisdom Soup. So here we are. And I'm really, really excited to have Wendy's talk because Wendy has some crazy cool stories to share. And she's going to share one with us today. So anyways, for those of you who are new to Wisdom Soup, welcome. This is a community we've been getting together for years now, 6, 7, 8, I don't even know, many years, where we get together once a month, always on the second Thursday of the month. And the idea behind the name Wisdom Soup is that you get to make your own soup, that we're going to talk about all things spiritual in nature. We go deep into the woo. We talk about there's really no taboo subjects. And it's a process of just being open and listening and then taking what you want to go in your soup and leaving the rest. So it's that idea of constantly learning, right? Being exposed to new ideas. So many of you have experienced your own past lives or understand past lives. Some of you may be brand new to the concept of past lives. Past lives are Wendy's bread and butter. This is her passion in life. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have her with us is that she has accessed so many of her own past lives and has written several books about them. So it's super, super fun to have her share one of her stories with us. So I'd love to introduce you to Wendy Rose Williams. Welcome, Wendy.
Oh, thank you, Anne, and thanks for just going with the flow, literally, even though the traffic flow is not flowing too well for you.
No, and Wendy, from your spot, can you spotlight yourself for the group from where you are? I can't do it from my phone.
Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. I'm not sure where to do that.
Just the three dots on your name in the top
My
right corner
name,
of your name. You
top
should be
right
able to do it.
corner of my name. Okay, spotlight for everyone. Here we go.
You got it? Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. All right, very good. So, and I'll just keep admitting people so Anne can drive or do what she needs to do. So,
Thank you.
what happened started in February of 1990. And I was a newlywed. I was living in Boxford, which is Massachusetts, which is just north of Boston. And my husband and I had the good fortune to purchase a large colonial on 2 acres. I was a 2 acre minimum town. So it was just lovely and rural and horses and very wooded and people, living at a distance from one another, but just a lovely, lovely area. And we just felt so fortunate. And my husband was traveling extensively on business. He was a sales manager and was gone at least 50 to 75% of the time on the road. And what happened was one of the very first nights that he was gone, and I'm just feeling great. I'm like thrilled to be newly married, so happy with the house and the property. And so I just close up the house, for the night to go to bed like we all do. And what happened was right at midnight, I'm starting to have this really, really vivid dream. And it goes beyond the point of being lucid. I mean, I'm like fully awake, sitting upright in bed because I heard a terrifying sound. And that was the sound of footsteps coming up the stairwell. Our bedroom, the primary bedroom, was right at the top of the stairs. It was a 2-story colonial, and our bedroom was right at the top of the stairs. And I'm petrified because I'm home alone. Someone's in the house with me. My husband's out of town. I've got no phone in the bedroom, and I also don't have a lock on the door. So I am just in abject terror at that point. It's one of the scariest things that's ever happened in my life. And so I sneak out of bed thinking, what do I do? What do I do? I've got to barricade this door somehow. So I'm trying to quietly put a straight chair underneath the knob to try and barricade the door. And I'm also going through in my mind, what do I do? I can't like climb out a window because it's too high. I don't have a fire ladder. What do I do? So I'm like with bated breath, standing there inside my bedroom door, and the footsteps just stop, which actually is, in a way, was like kind of worse because now I'm like, what do I do now? Where is this person? Where are they? Because I can't hear anything. The footsteps just stopped when they reached the second floor, right outside my bedroom. So I wait for about 15 minutes, not making a sound. And then it's like, clearly, I just can't go back to bed. I've got to check the house. I've got to see what's going on. So I, kind of think it through, like, where's the nearest phone? I'm going to have to like open this door and come out of this bedroom and like run into the clearest phone and like possibly barricade myself in another room and call 911 because I don't know what else to do. So it just was terrifying. So I do that. But the minute I ease open the door and step out, you can just feel if someone's in the house or not. And I could just feel there was no one there. So I go all around the house and I double check. There's like no broken windows, the front door, none of the doors have been broken into. And I flipped on the outside lights. And this was February of 1990, as I said, in the Boston area. So there was a fresh snow. So I can even see outside the house in the fresh snow, there's no footsteps. There's been no one there. So how did I so clearly hear these footsteps was really quite the mystery to me. And so at that point, I secure the house again for a second time and I go back to bed and have a really uneasy night's sleep. First thing I do in the morning is getting ready to go to work, and I get to work and I call a locksmith and plan with the locksmith for him to come that night and to just put a lock on the bedroom door. So I do that and I feel better going to sleep that next night, knowing I've got a good lock on the bedroom door in case this crazy occurrence were ever to occur again. So guess what? Guess what happens that next night? Same thing. It's a dream. It's so vivid. It wakes me up. I know I'm fully awake because I pinched the inside of my left arm and I've
You want to
actually
hear this?
got.
It's a ghost story, basically.
So let's see
Oh gosh.
if you'd be so kind, if I can just mute.
Someone isn't muted.
We've got some sounds in the background, so let's see if I'm able to just mute everyone.
If you go under the, yes.
Because we've got interference here. So let's
If
see.
you go under the participants, Wendy, there's a button that says mute all.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm not able to do that, Anne, as a co-host. I know how to do it and I'm not able to do it. So if you'd be so kind as to mute yourselves, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. So second night, I have the same dream. It's the same dream, but it progresses a little bit further. This time, what I can see, it's like the walls of my house are falling away. And I see this heartbroken young woman. I can tell she's from Colonial American times because of the dress was so distinctive, with a little white apron, a little white kerchief covering her hair. And she's trying to climb up this large rock, this large stone that is in my yard where my house used to be. My house is only 20 years old, and I can just tell it's hundreds of years earlier. The trees are much smaller, and I can just tell that time rolled back. She's trying to climb up this rock without messing up her best outfit. And I thought that was unusual. Why is she wearing her best outfit to go climb up on top of this rock? What she did was she was looking directly to the east. And I just knew that she was waiting for her beloved to come. And you could just feel this yearning and this heartbreak from her because he's not coming. So she's just heartbroken. She's just stuck. She just felt so stuck. I didn't know how to communicate with her. I didn't know what to do. It just, again, this was 1990. And it's not like we just jump on Google and just, look up, what do I do with this heartbroken ghost in my yard? It just was a very different time. Also, I was not spiritually awake or open. I was 28 years old. I was an MBA. My husband was an MBA. I'll be honest, I didn't believe in ghosts, but well, that belief system had to change because I clearly had one in my yard. And she wasn't going anywhere because she was just so stuck. So this dream goes on and on and on. I have it for many nights a week for 3.5 years, the entire time that we live in the house. And there just doesn't seem to be any good resolution to it. Just this heartbreak keeps coming from her. I tried talking with my husband, and he just gave me the look like, are you crazy? What are you talking about? There's no such thing as ghosts. And his answer basically was, you must be feeling some anxiety because you're home alone. We don't have an alarm. This big house out in the woods. We're far from neighbors, so you got to figure it out, Wendy. You just gotta get yourself together. It's like, okay, understand. Now you know why I put the lock on the door. Bedroom door was not feeling secure. And I tried to talk to my mom. Same response. Oh, Wendy, there's no such thing as ghosts. What are you talking about? So I just I just had to let it go for quite a time period. What changed was we had guests. We loved to entertain. We were fortunate to have a large home. Boston's a great city. So we had invited different friends and family members over the years to come and stay with us because we had plenty of room. And what happened on three different occasions with my cousin, with one of my best friends that I'd met at the beginning of college, and with one of my husband's former coworkers who'd become a close friend of his. Each one of them, when I asked them the next morning, just your hostess questions: how'd you sleep? Do you need any more blankets? Do you have enough towels? Just, your typical hostess questions. I had said nothing to any of them about this odd experience because I just didn't know what to make of it. And I'd been shut down on the first two conversations, so I wasn't talking about it. And each one of them, my cousin was first, and then my girlfriend, said on separate occasions, oh my gosh, Wendy, you won't believe this crazy dream, this experience I had last night. And there's this heartbroken young female ghost on your property, and she's stuck. And she looks like she's from Colonial America because of what she's wearing. Well, my jaw was on the floor because how could three different people, none were psychic mediums. One's a social worker, one's an accountant, and one's a VP of finance. Not that we can't be well-rounded people, but again, it was 1990, and it's like, wow, how can they be having the same experience? So that was really interesting. And then I shared with them that I had that dream regularly, and I just didn't know how to help her and what to do. I had some sense that she needed to go up to the light, she needed to go back home, but I didn't know how to help her do that or how to free her up. So that's why she kept on visiting me. So at the end of that 3.5 year period of living there and really enjoying the home and the property with this strange quirk of house came complete with a ghost, and the realtor had not mentioned that fact. Obviously, I don't think she knew anything about it. So we then relocate. We moved from the Boston area out to Seattle in 1993. And I just didn't know what to do with the experience. So honestly, I tried to forget about it. It was just one of those odd, crazy things in life that happens that you can't figure out. Or so I thought for 20 years. Fast forward all the way from 1993 to 2013, and we'd been living in the Seattle area on the east side for 2 decades. And in 2013, one of my and by that time I was spiritually awake. I started to wake up spiritually in 2010. So in 2013, one of my best friends calls me And she says, "Are you sitting down?" Well, that's an interesting. I was like, okay, I am now. I said, "What's going on? You okay? What's going on?" She said, "I need to tell you a really interesting story that involves you, and just try and keep an open mind." I said, "Okay, I'm listening. You have my full attention." By 2013, I could hear my guides very, very well. I was blessed to hear guides and angels by that time. And they were saying, deep truth, deep truth, deep truth, get ready. So, what she shared with me is she had gone to East West Bookstore and she had wanted to buy the latest Brian Weiss book. Instead, this other book got her attention in a really unusual way when she was in the bookstore. I can't remember if it fell off a bookshelf, like right at her feet, or just something happened that she was like, whoa, look at that. And she was very surprised. She's a medical technologist. So just, again, just very, very, very grounded person, but, open-minded too. She was a Reiki master also. So she picks up this book, which is called Sacred Spaces. And she said it was like the book glued itself to her hands. So she's like, okay, clearly I'm meant to buy this book. So she buys it instead and goes home with it. She tries to lay it down on the counter because the kids were getting ready to come home from school and she had to go get ready to go meet the bus. And she said again, it was like that book was glued to her hands. And she's like, what is going on here? So she skimmed through the chapters very quickly. And the chapter on how to clear your home of a ghost caught her attention. So she sped, did some speed reading to look through that. And then she read it more thoroughly later that night. And she just, went on with her day. So what then happened was 2 or 3 days later, she's sharing this story with me. 2 or 3 days later, her dog wakes her up in the middle of the night, right at midnight. Evidently, this ghost likes drama. It's like, right at midnight, because that's when I used to get woken up with the ghost also. And her dog was just staring at her. You know how your pet can, your animal companion can wake you up just by staring at you. So she gets up and thinks, oh my goodness, this is unusual. The dog must need to go out. So she's trying to quietly get the dog outside without waking up her whole family and let the dog out in the backyard. But instead of being able to let the dog out into the backyard, the dog runs into the adjacent family room and just goes berserk, just starts barking and running around in circles and like looking up at the ceiling. So she also instinctively looked up at the ceiling to see what the dog was barking at. She thought, oh, maybe a bat got in or, a bird or what's going on here. And she looked up and she saw this specter, this ghost. And she said it was this heartbroken young female ghost. So she remembered and she said she felt like she almost got sucked into the heartbreak. It was so intense. So she remembered what she'd read in Sacred Spaces, and she started going through that procedure and process to clear her home of the ghost. And she spoke kindly but very firmly to the ghost and said, you don't have a body. You don't have permission to be here. You need to leave my home right now. Go on outside. Go on up to the light. I'm calling in angels. There are beings of light who will help you. You need to go up to the light. Get out of my house now. And she said she had to go through this process for about a half an hour, that it was really, really intense. And then the punchline, I knew what she was going to say before she said it. She said, Wendy, that ghost is you. And you need to clean up your stuff. You need to clean up your old business because, and she said, I know this sounds amazing and crazy perhaps, but I said, oh, I know, I get it now, I see it. And she and I started describing to one another our past life in colonial America at Plymouth Plantation, where we had been best friends for a lifetime. We had lived next to one another. I had gotten there first as a 12-year-old girl, and she came a few years later. over on one of the Mayflower ships from England. So it kind of made perfect sense that I would go to her for help because here she was again, one of my best friends. So I apologized to her. I'm like, "Oh, wow. What is the etiquette for this?" I'm like, "So sorry. I woke you up in the middle of the night and put you through this experience." Because what she said was, "I was able to get the ghost. I was able to get you from that past life out of my house, but I don't think I got her up to the light. I think you need to do that. You need to take responsibility." And I said, wow, I understand. That makes perfect sense. I've got to clean up my own energy, but I don't know how to do it. But again, I apologize and I'll figure this out. I'll take care of this. So that was the end of our conversation. So it's 2013, and I'm now aware that I'm officially haunting myself. So what do you do with that? So it's the ultimate example of past life energy that can just be bothering us, where there's something we need to clean up, there's a lesson we need to learn, there's something, often it's to do with forgiveness. So I then got on a journey of, okay, let's get this done. And I contacted two psychic medium friends because at that point I just was in a different stage of life. And one of them was an immediate coworker. I worked for a hospital laboratory, and I went to him and closed the door and said, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I need to share something with you personal and see if you can help guide me." And he said, "Sure, what's up?" And I didn't want to tell him too much because he's a psychic medium and I wanted him to be able to, just connect and validate. So I told him very, very little, but essentially that I had a ghost situation and it was difficult to clear the ghost to the light. And could it be possible that the ghost was, and I'm like barely getting the words out. He's like, "Oh my gosh, it's you." And I was like, "Yes, it's my past life. So what do I do? How do I get that past life self to the light? Why is she stuck here? What's going on?" And he just looked at me and he's like, "Wow. I've had people ask me to clear ghosts from their property or, their office or whatever, or an abandoned building or from a location, but I've never had the person standing there asking me the question saying, "How do I clear my own ghost?" He's like, "That's above my pay grade. I don't know how to do that. You're going to need to figure that out. I love you. I care about you. You've got this one. Go figure it out." I'm like, okay. So again, more confirmation, but I still don't know what to do. And I'm trying to meditate. I mean, I've been praying, I've been auto writing, and I'm just like struggling with this. So I went to another lovely friend, again, another accountant, but also just a gifted psychic medium, and channel. And I asked her, same thing, very careful conversation. Don't want to tell her too much. And she got it immediately. Same thing. She confirms it again. And I said, "I don't know what to do. Can you help me just understand what I need to do to get her up to the light? What's the unfinished business? Why is she so heartbroken? What do I do?" And same thing, she said, "Wow, I cannot clear her for you. You need to do it because it's your energy and you're attached. So I can't clear her. But I can refer you to a spiritual teacher. My spiritual teacher is excellent with ghosts. She knows how to unweave very complex situations. So let me give you her name and contact information. And also I'm going to tell her to expect your call." I was like, "Great. Now we're getting somewhere. I just need a little bit of help. I need some information." So I then booked an appointment with that amazing woman who would become my first spiritual teacher and was so for 3 or 4 years. And it took about 3 weeks to get on her schedule. And in the meantime, I was able to have some breakthroughs and to do a deep dive. One of the things that happened was I went out to dinner with one of my with my former boyfriend, And he and I had deep, deep history together of past lives. We knew we'd been in a lot of shared past lives together. So we're at dinner. He's catching me up on this big international trip that he's been on. And then all of a sudden, he said something kind of random about, oh, and, I met with so and so, and it was another former girlfriend of his. And he says, she's still really angry with me because she can't let go of this past life when I was a sea captain and I abandoned her. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. A whole bunch more of the past life with that ghost. That young Colonial American woman came in, and I looked at him. I said, wow, do you know you've been a sea captain quite a number of times, and there seems to be a fair bit of that energy for you to clean up. And this is so perfect and so pertinent to what I wanted to share with you tonight and why I asked you to go to dinner. And I shared with him what I had been learning about that past life. And what we realized was he was the sea captain that had brought me over in that past life as a 12-year-old girl. And I knew his name. His name came right through. My guides told me as we were sitting there at dinner. I didn't yet know my name, but his name came through, and he had been Captain William Pierce, who became known as the ferryman of the North Atlantic. And he was famous for safely bringing over the largest number of people to Plymouth Plantation in Massachusetts, where I had been, and to Virginia, to the Jamestown, the other first settlement in the U.S. So this was a breakthrough, and he didn't have a lot of recall of that past life, but he said, what you're saying makes perfect sense. So let me know if you need any help. So I, at that point, was starting to really, really unweave that past life and was starting to understand. I was now able to talk with that ghost and ask her what she needed, ask her why she was so sad, ask her what had happened in her life. So I was able to get all those very complex details. She told me so much. It literally became a book. It is my second book. It's called The Flow One Plymouth Plantation. And if you'd like to read it, I made it just 99 cents for today only. You can get it via, go to Amazon and you can look for it under my full name, Wendy Rose Williams, or under the title, and you can download it on Kindle for just 99 cents today only to get all the details. And what I was able to learn in a nutshell was he had brought me over as Anne Warren. And my father was Richard Warren, who was on the original Mayflower ship in 1620. So I was able to look up and find some of this history. I did not do that in the beginning. I don't like to Google because I want to get my own information, and I don't want it to be influenced by watching a TV show, reading a book about something. I just downloaded everything I could. And then at the end of it, when I thought I had all the information, my guide said, okay, Google this one point, Google this one thing. And I would very carefully, and confirm after confirm came up that was just amazing. So I incarnated into this lifetime with approximately 20 people from that lifetime, including that best friend, including the sea captain who brought me over. And the bottom line of why Anne Warren was so heartbroken, she recognized William Pierce. She recognized the sea captain. He was in his 20s at the time, maybe late 20s. And here she is, this impressionable young girl, but she recognizes him and she can hear her guides in that lifetime. That was not a lifetime for that to be very safe, or in the culture that she lived in, or for that to be very appreciated. So she only ever shared it with her older sister. Her older sister is now my youngest daughter. My mother in this lifetime was my stepmother then. I have the same father, and my stepmother now was my mother then. I had the same cat I mean, it just went on and on and on of all the people that came in to help me clean up this past life and help me remember what I needed to remember so that I could work through the issue. So I come over on the ship. I recognize William Pierce. I'll just speak as Anne, and from Anne's viewpoint at that point. So she sees him and she's like, "Oh my gosh, there he is! It's my soulmate. This is the man I'm meant to be with. Oh my goodness. I wonder, my goodness, is he single? Is he available?" So she looked carefully at his left hand, saw no wedding ring, and in her world, every married man would wear a wedding ring. So that's all she knew. She's young, she's sheltered, and she didn't understand that seamen typically do not wear any rings, anything around their wrists, because it's dangerous work and they can't get their hand caught because that can become life or death. So she doesn't understand that he's actually married. She never knows that. He never shares that with her. They then have a clandestine relationship through her teens every time he comes to Plymouth Plantation, because he comes not on any regular schedule, but he brings goods because the colony cannot grow or make everything that they need to survive. So they trade. They trade with various sea captains. They're growing corn primarily and trading corn, but trading some other things too. Every time William Pierce comes, he looks for Anne Warren. He gets her alone and she thinks this is the man that she's meant to marry. The very last time she sees him, she's about 18 years old. And Richard, her father, had just died. And she's heartbroken from this. And it really left the family in quite a quandary because there's 5 teenage girls and 2 infant boys, and they now all need to be supported with no man of the house and with just the stepmother and mother. So it's just the family's just in upheaval. So William Pierce comes to pay his respects to Anne and share his sympathy because he'd heard about the funeral and that Richard had passed on. And she thinks he's going to ask for her hand in marriage, but is waiting for an appropriate time after this death. The last thing he ever says to her is, "Anne, you're so special to me. Wait for me." And he then leaves, he disappears. So she, at some level, for the rest of her life, is waiting for him to come back and marry her because this is just what makes sense to her. And she thinks this is what's meant to happen. He never comes back. She never sees him again. She never knows what happens to him. So this is setting off this want, this love, this unrequited love. And fortunately, she recovers enough from it and him not coming back, and she recovers from her father's death, and she marries. She marries very happily about 3 or 4 years later, which in her day was quite older to marry. She has a very, very happy long marriage to Thomas Little. They have 9 children together. There's grandchildren, there's great grandchildren. And then Thomas dies when they are in their 60s, suddenly, unexpectedly. She doesn't take it well. It's just, she's very lonely. She gets this spunky black tomcat for company. And he's very much an outdoor cat, but he does come in too, and that's helping her. And she then hears her cat just yowling one morning, very, very early in the morning. It's like 4 in the morning. So she pops the front door open and just goes out onto her little stoop to let the cat in. Instead, she goes down, writhing in pain, Indian arrow, lower left ribs, just under the ribs. She goes down. She dies unexpectedly in a lot of pain, a lot of just terror because she's frantic. So I, in that lifetime, leave the body and start to go up to the light, but she's so frantic. It's so unexpected, and she's frantic for her family. She's frantic for her friends. Are they going to survive what's happening? So she sticks around, and she's just all over Plymouth Plantation, not leaving, trying to help people. I mean, she can't do anything. She needs to go up to the light and heal, but she doesn't understand that. She doesn't do that. So I became a ghost, a very stubborn ghost, because Anne went back through in her mind. She's regretting what's happened, and she's just thinking, well, where is William? You know, William Pierce never came back, and he told me to wait for him. He must have meant until our death, because he's been missing from my life since I was 18. And here I now am in my 60s, never having known what happened to him. So she waits, and she waits, and she waits. And that is the ghost that keeps climbing that big rock and looking toward the water, because he would always come via water, waiting for him to come back. It's like those, if you ever saw those, what was the men's cologne? Something about ship and waiting for your man to come home from the sea. It's just Old Spice. It's just like this awful Old Spice commercial that just won't end. And that's what happened. So let me stop at that point and just see, can I answer questions? Can I help make sense of this, and just, understand how I then did get that ghost to the light. So that's the story of what happened. The high picture view of it, and the details, as I said, are in the book. So are there any questions?
Hey there, Wendy. I'm actually just arrived home, which I'm very excited.
Oh, perfect timing. I hadn't even looked, and there's Anne at home. Anne, it looks like a ship's portal, your beautiful mirror. I feel like I see.
It's so appropriate for the talk. Yeah, let me join in from my computer camera, and that will make it a little easier as opposed to my phone.
Of course.
Recording in progress.
And let me, sorry.
Is that your ghost sound effect?
Wendy, can I ask you a question?
Of course. Hi, Kimberly. Yes.
Hi. I've dabbled in this a little bit, but as you're telling that story, I've come up with this question. Is a person from the past, so in this case, Anne Warren, is that only specific to you? In other words, one person for one person versus a few of us have been in that same, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Anne Warren Little is my specific past life from Colonial America. And
Okay.
what she had, but many people, I think more people than we think, may have a similar situation where what happened, the reason she didn't go to the light, she had never forgiven William Pierce. She
Right.
was angry. She was heartbroken. It was that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I mean, even though she went on with her life the best way she could, there just was energy between them that was not balanced. And that's why he and I needed to meet again in this lifetime. And he did help me. He kindly took responsibility and helped me with the ritual, because we were not dating anymore. And I said, well, here's the wildest request you're ever going to get from a former girlfriend. Will you help me get her to the light? And he said, yes, I want to take responsibility. I don't remember it like you do, but I believe everything you say, and I can feel the energy from it. And yes, I want to help you. I want to help you get her to the light. So I needed to forgive him. He needed to forgive me for other lifetimes. And we needed to find some peace. And as we did that, and as we did that ritual, and we chose a night when we could stay up to midnight, because again, she's got this flair for the dramatic, which I don't have in this lifetime, thankfully. Just very dramatic. And so we met at midnight and did a lot of things. We called her in, we called William Pierce in, and just the four of us in that room were so palpable. And we did some things that my guide said to do to explain to her. I explained I was her future higher self and that I was there to help her and that I loved and cared about her and she'd done nothing wrong. But there was an amazing party waiting for her up with the light up home. And she was meant to go up to the light and let go and forgive William, forgive herself. I had him, he was divorced and I was divorced. And I said to him, do you happen to still have your wedding ring? Can you find your wedding ring? And he said, well, yeah, why? I said, would you please put it on for while we're doing this ceremony? I want her to see a ring on your finger and understand that you were always married and had children and were not available. And what you did was very unkind and quite selfish. And are you willing to? He says, yes. And so he did that, and we showed her that. And ironically, he got the wedding ring stuck on his hand, which I thought was really funny. We had to do some work with soap and water to get it off. So we just released her. It was at the point where she was just agreeing to go. And then I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to get her to the light, to get this weight off me, to get this craziness off me, because I could feel her energy. It was not fun. I cannot tell you how my health improved after she went to the light, how my emotions improved. I had so much less anger. I cannot tell you how things improved, but we're right at the point after doing this ceremony for about an hour and I'm exhausted and she's ready to go. And he said something about, oh, and I'm having my birthday party, in a couple of days. I'm hosting my own birthday party. And I could feel her stop going. And I was like, dang, I'm trying to get her out of like trying to get her to go to her own party. And you mentioned your birthday party. And then I could feel her just stop. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, don't say it, don't say it. And he's like, you're welcome to come. And I'm like, no, you just invited my ghost. Don't you have enough people coming to your own birthday party, you jerk? I was so annoyed. But it turned out to be very important. And I did not realize ghosts, the things that make for ghosts, it's sudden deaths, it's extreme emotion where they're still looking back at the human life and can't let go of the human life. There's big emotion going on. And when he invited her to the party, what happened, the party was one for the record books. I kind of had a feeling of what it was going to be like, but I did not know the scope. So his new girlfriend was there, and I go to it very carefully because I still had feelings for him, and I knew it might be a rough night. Didn't know how rough a night it was going to be, but ultimately set myself free. There were about 30 people. Most of us were crowded into the Pope Room at Buca di Beppo Italian restaurant. If any of you have been there, it's a huge round table. The waiters and waitresses cannot work their way around it. It's just like so crowded, and they have to like serve from like one end of the table and put everything on a carousel. Well, what happens is I'm sitting next to another of his former girlfriends who I was casually friends with. And she was immediately to my right. And she stood up and said, hey, why don't we all introduce ourselves? Because most of us don't know each other, and just say, how do we know the guest of honor? I thought, oh boy, here it comes. So she goes first and she explains that they dated a few times and then became friends, and she's there with her boyfriend. So it goes all the way around the huge table. I'm dead last because of the way it started. Well, a good 20 people, if not more, were women he'd dated, lived with, been lovers. I'm like, wow, Is this the ultimate 60th birthday party?
We've
So,
got a couple questions for you, Wendy.
yes, absolutely.
One person is asking if the ghost comes to visit you anymore.
No, she's fully up with the light. She's where she should be. Yes, I can hear her if I choose to speak with her. But she's fully up with the light where she should be. She does not come back and haunt me anymore. There's no issue. It was a big deal to get her to go to the light. And the way we did it, the final piece was everyone goes around the table. I'm dead last. I stand up and said, evidently, I'm one more of the poor little match girls, which got a big laugh because we'd most of us had met him through Match. And then he had asked for, in lieu of gifts, he'd asked for roasts or toasts if anyone wanted to share something. So I pulled out a piece of paper that I had prepared ahead of time that my guides had asked me to write. And what it was, I said, your friend Anne was not able to be here in person tonight, so she asked me to read you this note. And I read it aloud to him as William, and I'd addressed it to William from Anne. And he knew what was going on, and he publicly apologized. He said, I'm so sorry Anne could not be here in person tonight. Her spirit is absolutely here. And I did her wrong. I did her really, really wrong. And I'd like to publicly apologize and just leave it at that. And I then, folded up the sheet of paper and handed it to him with the other, mementos and things. It was the public apology. That night at home alone, I was able to get her to go to the light. She wanted that apology. It was very interesting, and she wanted it publicly. So that's how it came. So now, please let me turn myself to questions or comments.
Yeah, and here's one that from Stephanie is asking, are recurring negative dreams often signs of past life trauma?
That's a great question. They absolutely can be. If you cannot recall anything in this lifetime that makes, that you're aware of, that would give you that fear, that phobia, that trauma, that concern. And remember, it can also be from when we're a preschooler, or it can be from in utero. So it can be from anywhere in this lifetime, but it often is past life. So if you're able to turn the dream lucid, start taking some control of it, and look for guides, look for anyone with an occupational title, because that's a guide, and just start getting into your power and working through it. Like if you have a recurring dream of someone breaking into your house, that's a really common one. Well, okay, be there and be ready. And nope, you're not getting in. So sorry. I'm standing here with my baseball bat. You are not welcome. Whatever you need to do to be in your power to deal with, just play it out. And if you can use some sense of humor, if that's a good coping strategy for you, because you can change what things are in dreams. It's like a bunch of men with guns turning in. Well, I turn those guns into like toy guns, and in like flowers come out of the end of them. Oh, thank you for bringing me the flowers.
So John's got a good question for you. He's asking, can you talk about how this experience led you to what you offer spiritually today? It looks like past life regressions, among other things.
Yes, this was such a profound experience. And what happened with that full awakening, with that former boyfriend who'd been the sea captain, that's what really, really got me on my path. He introduced me to Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. And the minute I read that book about past life regressions and about life between lives, I'm like, that's it, that's it, that's it. That's what's been missing in my life that I did not know until this moment was missing. So that clicked in when I was 49 years old, and it just changed everything. He had the soul contract to wake me up spiritually, and he did so with that book and by telling me about past life regression. He actually found the first past life regressionist that I went to as the client. and drove me to it because it was back in the day when you had to go in person. So he drove me into downtown Seattle to see a Newton therapist. And that very first session that I had was amazing. I released a lifetime of anxiety. I'd had anxiety my entire life until then. And I was able to clean up some scenes earlier in this lifetime from when I was 12, and something else from when I was a preschooler, from when there had been some abandonment in this lifetime by my mother. My dad was more out of the picture, and by my mother. So we cleaned those things up. And I was able to see two past lives, which just was amazing to me, that all this could happen in 2 hours. So it was like, wow. And I did not go into that first session as an ideal client, was very type A, very controlling, had anxiety, very suspicious. So I was not an ideal client, but somehow I managed to relax. I managed to just open myself. Well, let's just see what's going to happen. And I turned out to actually be an amazing, wonderful, easy hypnotherapy client. I go very easily, very deep into trance. So I always need the recording to go back to and listen to. So that's what started getting me on my path. Was I had that first session. I went a year later for a Life Between Lives session, which is a 4-hour, very deep session. When I transcribed the recording from it, I had 65 pages of information from my higher self and guides I had not known. And that started to really help change my life, get me on my path, started to bring in my gifts profoundly. 1 year later, I had some sessions, quantum healing hypnotherapy sessions with a Dolores Cannon client, and that started to bring in the channeling. That started to bring in so many things. That led to the recognition, because she said to me, Wendy, listen to your recording carefully and you'll notice you not only speak as you quickly switch over to your higher self and guides, and you're actually telling me as the therapist what to do. You're telling me how to run the session. She said, I've never seen this before. You clearly have done this many times before. So then at that point, she then connected me with someone for me to train and to become a hypnotherapist and a past life regressionist. So I went straight into that. I also trained as a Reiki master energy healer, so that I could just bring in those pieces to it. I trained for 13 months to become a certified spiritual teacher, and I trained for several years to become a channel. And along the way, I also became an author.
Super cool, Wendy. So Jay is also asking, thank you for asking the question, John. Jay is asking, is this past life you, or more distant in that it's a sliver of your large higher self? I once heard the higher self described as big as a cloud, and the human lives as the raindrops, as numerous raindrops. Does that sound correct? And then he also is asking again for the name of the book. If you could hold up the cover of the book so people could see it. Thank you.
The book is The Flow One Plymouth Plantation.
The Flow One, the Flow, and then number one, Plymouth Plantation.
One Plymouth Plantation.
Awesome.
It might be easier to go to Amazon, go to books tab, and put in Wendy Rose Williams, and you'll see it that way. Or you can put in that long title. Either way. And the rest of the question, I love that. That's a very poetic analogy. I see our higher self, our soul, as like that overarching energy. And then we choose to incarnate into these different lives. They might be on Earth, they might be on other planets, they might be in other dimensions. So it's just, it's just all these beautiful pieces and parts of us having these different experiences, and then loading it back up to our higher self, back to our eternal soul, who then makes sense of these things with the help of elders at home, whether you see them as spirit guides, council of elders, whoever you relate to, that helps us understand and just make sense of the different experiences, and also plan our next incarnations.
Yeah. So, and thank you, Tammy. She just added Wendy's website to the chat. So thank you
Oh,
so much
thank
for
you.
doing that, Tammy.
Thank you.
And then you have
If
many
you go
people
on
saying,
Amazon and grab the actual link, that would be fabulous too, to the book
I
itself.
can, I'll check that for you, Wendy, and I'll paste it in. And Rich says, can you have a past life experience as a spirit guide for your currently assigned spirit guide? So can you kind of swap places? One time you're the guide and one time they're the guide.
Ooh, that's interesting. Let me just ask my guides to comment on that. Yes, that is possible. It would be unusual. You can be your own guide. You don't typically switch back and forth like that because typically spirit guides have more experience and more wisdom. But you can become your own spirit guide. I have a spirit guide who is one of my past lives, and he has enough wisdom and he has become a guide to me. So that's actually my next book, Regression Healing 2, Joe and Marilyn. And Joe has become a guide to me.
All right, and I just got the link for Amazon and just pasted it into the chat. So there it's in there. You'll see that if you wanted to see the book easily, it's there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then here we go. Let me just scroll it back here. And then, Christy's just asking if I were to schedule a past life regression session with you, would the clearing of energy interfere with soul convergent meditations? It does, but you just want to do it after that. You want to do it once you're done with soul convergence. So the cool thing about it is you'll if you've ever done past life regression work, it gives you a way to access and start to actually see. If you're a visual person, you'll actually see some of those scenes from your past life, which is really, really cool. That's what I experienced in past life regression. It's very cool.
And
yeah, it's a very fun modality. What?
Some people see, some people feel, some
Yeah.
sense, some know, some hear. And
Yeah.
what Anna's saying is so perfect because soul convergence, that container, and you don't want that container broken open because it's a specific process where the angels are building the container with you, having done soul convergence 1 and 2. And that's why you don't want to do other types of energy healing sessions during it, because past life regression, what we'd be doing in the energy healing sessions is we'd be releasing, healing and releasing energy that doesn't serve you anymore. So that's why you'd need to do it when you're off the clock from soul convergence.
Well, I just want to let you know, Wendy, you've gotten so many positive and wonderful supportive comments from everyone. Tammy says, what a fantastic story. Anna says, thank you, Wendy, and for making the book available as well. And then we've got Stephanie that's saying, thank you so much, Wendy, and lots and lots. Sherry says, this is fascinating. Thank you for sharing. It touched me deeply. Stephanie says, thank you so much. Shabna says, thank you for such a beautiful story, really touching. So you guys, this has been awesome, awesome. And I love this. Wendy has been a speaker for us in the past. If you want to check out her past presentations for Wisdom Soup, they're on our YouTube channel. But it's always fun to have you, Wendy. You've had some crazy, wild experiences in this human life, and it's super fun to have a window into what you have seen. So thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Absolute pleasure. And please go to my website, wendyrosewilliams.com, and there you're welcome to join me. If you're not in soul convergence, you're welcome to join me for a complimentary energy healing and clearing. I do those regularly with people as a group on Zoom. You'll just see other offerings there too. And you should have seen my face the first time I actually entertained the possibility. Could I be hunting myself? Is that
it must have been an awesome moment. Oh, I just wanted to answer also Emily's question about the quantum. You're thinking of Dolores Cannon, and she is an author, and she was created this type of hypnotherapy. She has passed. She's no longer with us, but her books are awesome too. So she's definitely, and Wendy, part of the way I found Wendy is I was looking for a practitioner who practiced that particular Dolores Cannon's method, and Wendy's certified in that. So that was originally how I found Wendy. Yeah. So anyways, but Dolores Cannon is a very, very interesting story that on her own. Wish I could have her on Wisdom Soup, but she's not with us anymore. She's probably here in spirit. So
She
All right,
likes
you guys.
like this.
And I
Yeah.
did have a comment, a quick, I
Oh,
would
yeah.
just like to acknowledge you, Anne, for this platform and, having Wendy be able to speak and share her story. I very much relate to it. And it was a lot of confirmation for me, especially the part where, you were teaching while you're like doing, like, I'm like laughing because I'm on with my psychologist from the VA and I'm like telling her everything that they need to change about the system as I'm going through my session. So when you said that last thing, like that was such confirmation for me. That added a lot of humor to a lot of the trauma that I've been through, and it recreated it for me. And so I'm just so grateful that you
Wow.
shared yourself and again for this space to feel safe, to open myself up to receive.
Thank you so much from both of us, April. I really, really appreciate that. And it means a lot to me because I know that it is so much of the time our journey is, we can feel like we're the only ones. And it's so mysterious and there's no recipe book and we bumble our way into it. And it feels like it should be easy, but it's not. So thank you so much for bringing that, because I think everyone has felt that either now or at some point. And we are with you. We are 100% with you, and you are not crazy. This is what we're
And
meant to be
these are
doing.
definitely tears of gratitude, just overflowing gratitude for being connected. And
Yeah.
Waking up can just make us feel crazy or so
Yeah.
isolated and alone. So that's why Wisdom Soup is so special. And thank you, Anne, for being grace under pressure. I don't know anyone else that could have done that better too. Oh, great. I'm stuck in 3 hours of traffic.
Well,
But
at
I
least
have to do Wisdom Soup. I'll just make it happen. And
at
somehow
least it was a different background, variety. So that's good. Oh, you guys are awesome. Well, thank you so much. I have loved this. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal talk, Wendy.
Thank
And
you so much,
and then
everyone.
we will be back with Wisdom Soup again next. It's always on the second Thursday of the month. So we'll see you guys again. If many of you are part of the meetup group, we always announce it on Meetup or on our the Wisdom Soup mailing list. So, all right, you guys, have a fabulous rest of your day. Sending you love, and
Thank
I'll
you,
see you
everyone.
guys next time. Thank you, Wendy.
Bye-bye.